wait to count out your coin.
Hello there! Today in Oblivion class restoration project we have the Barbarian, which is a scary one. A huge orc with a huge weapon, completely addicted to power attacks, charging, sweep attacks and being surrounded for some reason. He gets stronger when there is a lot of enemies nearby. He strikes harder when below half health, while his enemies get weaker when they are below half health. He can power attack when out of stamina, he is impervious to damage when charging, and he can throw people to the ground in a variety of different ways. This powerhouse is made possible by a mixture of perfectly balanced and completely not overpowered mods, such as Vokrii, Sumermyst, Morningstar, Wintersun, and Evenstar. These are for gameplay, but for the looks we have Immersive armors, and if you wanna make his face similar to this marvel of beauty, you will also need race menu. He is actually an albino half-orc. It took me quite some time to make this face. I would also suggest a little SKSE mod, Classic Sprinting SE. Sprinting is actually quite an important part of the build when it comes to dragon and warlock fights, and I really don't understand why was it changed in SE. It seems much more difficult to control, so I reverted to the standard legendary edition sprinting. Barbarian uses no elemental resistance enchantments and no alchemy. I really wanted all the enchantment slots to be occupied by circumstantial effects, forcing me into a very risky combat style. Tie my power level to how many enemies I face at any time and how many power attacks I can execute. No slots were left for the standard anti-mage precautions. It does work as a motivation for being even more barbaric, but it may mean you will have to tweak the enchantment list or switch to the Lord Stone if you wish to play this on legendary. By the way, if you are looking for a barbarian build but not necessarily the Oblivion class inspired one, you should also watch my berserker build. These two guys are inevitably quite similar to one another, with a few key differences. The devil is in the details though, so let's look at the details. We are going to need something like 5 to 4 health to stamina ratio. One of the enchantments will increase both attributes, but we need more or less equal spread for it to be really effective. For the stone, Evenstar warrior will give us 10% effectiveness bonus to all warrior skills, but if you wanna play on legendary, you should possibly go with Lord or Vanilla Atronach to have some chance against warlocks and dragons. Morningstar orcs are pretty exciting actually. The idea that you get more and more vigor as the amount of enemies surrounding you increase really affects your combat tactics, especially when your success depends entirely on power attacks, like with this build, and hence requires a lot of stamina. This barbarian happens to be a Malacath worshipper and Wintersun as well, which will over time increase our power attack damage. The entire build relies on power attacks, so it's rather handy, I would say. For the skills, we go exactly as expected. Two-handed, block light armor and smithing. In two-handed, we take absolutely every single one. There is no perk here that we won't have some use for. The left side for all the berserker line bonuses, like taking less damage and having lower chance of stagger when power attacking. The right side for all the cool additional effects, including additional damage on charge attack and the bonus to standing power attacks damage. And most importantly, the sweep perk. Again, the sweep is just perfect for Morningstar orcs. You will do everything in your power to be surrounded anyway, because you can power attack endlessly in such situation. So you will end up sweeping much more often than usual, than if you had half a brain, I mean. The bonus to two-handed skill granted by the crowd pleaser perk stacks with itself actually. I just discovered that now. So the more enemies you can eliminate in the span span of 20 seconds, the more damage you could build up, which goes neatly along with Kill Streak enchantment on our sword and the Devotee power of Malacath, which heals you after a kill by the amount of overkill damage you dealt with the killing blow. Yet another tidbit of playstyle that really encourages you to constantly power attack and sweep and charge into all the barbarian things. And yes, this barbarian uses all 3 weapon types depending on the situation. This is because I decided to avoid double enchantments for this project, so having multiple weapons looks like a reasonable choice anyway, and because this build can be completed in 45 perk points even with all the specialized perks. However, if you think it's a waste of points, probably an axe with the power attack damage enchantment is the most satisfying of the 3, I would say. Loads of perks were also taken in block. You need the left hand side up to Poke Dragon, the middle up to Block Runner, and the right including both ranks of the Deadly Bash up to Dragon Tail, as well as weapon block and quick reflexes. For min-maxing, let's say Block Runner and Dragon Tail are your top priority goals in this tree. You should be fine without weapon block, since you are really good at smithing and you will most likely reach the maximum armor rating regardless. This set of perks, however, means you will have a chance for a savage counter-strike. Bashing to interrupt a power attack will set the attacker flying away, and bashes themselves will become quite deadly. It's actually quite a useful tool if you don't want to waste charges of your enchanted weapons on the weakest enemies. You just bash them with your weapon. In light armor, we are taking the middle branch up to Tough Hide and the right branch up to Evasive Sprint and Untouchable. As mentioned, Evasive Sprint is the single perk allowing us to fight powerful warlocks and dragons, with some decent chance for victory at least. It is therefore vital that you take the perk ASAP and probably train your light armor skill by any means necessary, including some paid training. Agility is critical as well, as the stamina regeneration allows for more power attacking. You can safely skip matching set. In smithing, take everything on the right hand side up to advanced armors. Both your armor and your weapons will be affected by this perk. Snowbear armor is actually quite hard to find in the world. You may need to craft it yourself once the perk is unlocked. Take armor padding as well, so that you can maximize armor rating as well as use one additional enchantment.
Greetings, your largeness. Sir, you are the one known as Korgoth, are you not?
Speaking of enchantments, the Barbarian uses 3 different Nordic weapons, switching between them depending on the type and amount of enemies he faces. This is a callback to Oblivion Barbarians, having both Blunt and Blade as their major skills. It also makes the playstyle of the Barbarian at least a tiny bit more tactical and diverse. Against groups of weaker enemies, we have the Great Sword enchanted with Kill Streak, which deals 5 times its damage for the first strike after a kill with this weapon. Nice for the boss fights, where there are waves of weaker minions constantly pesking you. The axe is enchanted with power attack damage, 62 points in my case, and you will power attack constantly. Since axe perks are perfect to mess up with the other warriors, the axe should be used mainly against single powerful enemies who aren't spellcasters. Against mages and dragons, we have the Warhammer enchanted with damage magicka. With the Shattering Strike perk, this weapon will also interrupt spellcasting and immobilize on power attacks.
I despise all weavers of the black arts.
Then we need Grit on the necklace and Link Health Stamina on the ring. Grit allows you to power attack even when out of stamina, which will save you in longer fights, but if you intend to play it on Legendary, this probably is the one enchantment to replace with magic resistance. It will be quite rare that you run out of stamina, especially that we are going to also place stamina regeneration on armor padding. Literally any amount of stamina regeneration is good enough and helps with power attacks. On armor pieces, we have 45 power attacks, Force to increase the stagger chance on power attacks, Stability to decrease the chance of you being staggered, and most importantly, the Imminent Victory enchantment, which makes you take less damage from low health enemies. So you will only get stronger as your health gets lower, and they will get weaker as they lose health. So as the fight escalates, you rule, they rule. It's epic, it's brilliant, it's barbaric. I love it. You probably noticed there is no Fortify two-handed or magic resistance enchantments on the list. It is a little bit of a risk on legendary, but as a Malacath worshipper, you can easily farm your power attack bonus by slaying giants. Malacath apparently really likes when you slay giants, and since you will pretty much always be able to power attack, at least in the mid and late game, you can really rely on this bonus. So we have this one done and dusted, basically. That was short. I like that he actually has to behave like a typical barbarian to really rule the battlefield. Stacking all the power attack bonuses and combining them with grit enchantment creates quite a terrifying result. Defeating enemies heals you and gives you a stacking bonus to your offensive skill, and to defeat a dragon or any magic using enemy, you just absolutely have to sprint charge towards them, as it will be your main way of avoiding damage. One thing you don't do here is approaching dragons carefully, and that's what a barbarian should be. Well, hope you like this little one. Slightly shorter than usually because we don't need to talk about spells or shouts or alchemy or anything really. It's all in the combination of enchantments and just a pretty obvious perk choice. And a good weapon, of course, yes. If you are still watching, click all the buttons under the video, like button, the subscribe button, bell button, enable all notifications button, give Belly $1 million button, save Western civilization button, create life out of nothing button, and leave a comment. We will see each other again. Bye. Bye.
You're going to see a whole new spectrum of pain, like a rainbow!